This one's for the disruptors, the uncommon, the unconventional, the rebels. You're not here to take things lying down. Well, season 2 is about shaking things up. I'm Beatrice, and this is the Art of Branding podcast. Be ready, be badass. Let's shake some shit up.
Hex yeah to the marketing powerhouse we've got on today with nearly 20 years under her belt in the consumer goods and hospitality tech industries. Jacki has taken on massive global brands like Amadeus, Shark Vacuums, and Ninja Blenders. She's repositioned products, built killer content strategies, and she's still kicking booty. Also cooking booty. I mean, it could be a thing.
I like to cook. Yeah.
Exactly. Taking her talents and shaking up the travel tech and hospitality space. Now, you know that is what we're all about. Now, girl, we have talked about our shared experience in hospitality. Yourself, present tense, and on my end, in past tense. And it'll always just have a big place in my heart. But God, what an industry it is. I bet you have some interesting stories.
I think you probably have more interesting stories than I do, actually working behind the scenes.
God, like, we're just going to go from like ghosts to crazy guests. I mean, let's see. The craziest has been walking into a room where, like, you know, you knock a few times to like let people know that you're going in, and nobody answers. So you go in. It's like, okay, I just need to put this piece of paper. This is the first day on the job, by the way. First freaking day. Turn around, and there's this guy standing there completely butt naked with like just a newspaper just staying there. I'm like, the hills, slowly turn around, walk out. I'm like, how could you not just say, like, I'm in here? Anything.
Yeah. Did you not hear me? Do we need to like log people, like their hearing capabilities?
I mean, like there's a thing, like,
might
you know,
be
there's just a standard, like you knock 3 times, like knock, take a break, knock, like 3 times. Anyway, how about with Amadeus? Like, just in general, like I can just imagine marketing as crazy as it gets and hospitality. Girl.
I know. Honestly, it's super fun. So I had all this other marketing experience, did some e-commerce, a lot of consumer goods, appliances, and I love travel. I love hospitality. The people are amazing. And how can I, like, if I can help improve that experience in any way for the guests so more people get to have an amazing travel experience, if I can do just that little bit with my skill set, that's awesome.
Right.
It's so fun. But, right, so like my job is to market to people like you in your former roles. So I'm always trying to pick people's brains. Like, what is it really like behind the scenes? How wild is it? Do you spend any time reading or consuming any of the content I'm creating, right? Like webinars, emails, videos, or are you just completely inundated at all times? Because I'm pretty sure that's mostly the case.
It's insane, right? Like trying to market to like the hospitality field, right? Between there being tinier teams or like non-existent teams to do the marketing. I still remember there was one role, like I was the GM of the hotel, and it's like also in marketing as well. And I was like, I'm sure you've heard that before, like other people doing that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, so what's your background? Oh, you're a finance person? You're the revenue manager and the GM and dabbling in marketing. Okay.
Oh, no. Do you think that's changed, or do you think it's changing in terms of the commitment to like improving their marketing, to, you know, to improving that space?
I don't. I think it's gotten harder post-COVID, that the staffing is such a challenge. So how do you keep up with it when you're just trying to staff? And so I've been able to connect with some amazing marketers who are freelance agency for hotels, and really some brilliant people. So they are coming in, they have tons of experience and helping out. So I think that's been great, that there are people who have either they've been in-house before and now they're doing it outside. But it's so hard. I think there's a recognition, right, that it needs to happen. But it's just resources.
Seriously. So, I mean, in terms of hotels, and like, you know, we're both about shaking things up in that space. And it's like, are we seeing hospitality businesses trying to shake the mold? Because it is, in a way, almost like the other industries like finance and accounting, that sort of thing, and where it's like it's quite structured, and this is like how it's always been done, and this is like how we always approach it. Do you see any?
It really is. It really is. And I see it from the tech side. And so think about, and by the way, like I'm a fan of some of the big brands, right? Like I have my Hilton points, I have my Marriott points, but if you go to those web pages, they all look the same and they're clunky. And how do they stand out? I mean, it's so hard. So in some ways, the independents have an opportunity because they're not limited to that box in terms of their marketing. But to have the name support and the dollars, you know, it's a lot more work. So they have flexibility, but it's so hard for them to do that. And so there are a lot of tools and services out there, but then, you know, that's the space that I'm working a lot in, is this travel tech and hospitality tech. But then it's so overwhelming with how many tools and how many things there are. And where do you even start when you have no time and you're just like, I need to hop in and do a couple things and then shift gears. So I think there's just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And super hard. And tech is definitely not the top priority, it seems, in this space. But it's super fun for me then to kind of jump in, help people simplify their messaging, and try to be really clear in like, here's what we do and here's what it's going to do for you.
So given that, you know, and the low resources that are put towards, you know, marketing, towards branding, towards like the tech side, do you see many of those in the industry trying to go to more towards like guerrilla marketing, where, you know, for people who are listening who aren't necessarily aware, like guerrilla marketing is where you go when you don't have that much of a budget, and well, I mean, you're the marketing, so I'll let you give your explanation on like guerrilla style.
So one of my former colleagues is now leading marketing at another travel tech company, and that he is all in on that. He's like, I am going to completely disrupt. We're going to try completely different tactics that no one else is doing, really hone in on our budget, not worry so much about really clear attribution, but try to create that awareness and get the sales conversations, and then look at the outcome, right? Are we actually generating dollars? But not look at that direct one-to-one attribution as much. So I'm excited. He's got something new coming out. I'm going to see how it works out for them.
It is so hard, right? Because be it marketing, be it brand, it takes time, right? To be able to see, say, for example, like you're doing a campaign, you're looking at least to have it run for like 3 months to be able to tell, like, okay, is this working or not? Right.
And different tactics, right, throughout that. You're trying to optimize the messaging, maybe the creative. But yeah, I think 3 months for anything. And I've been trying to move to longer, right? So like you have 3 months and you're iterating in them. It's really a 6-month campaign at least. So trying to have bigger campaigns that maybe have sub messages in them.
Man, that's crazy. So how about Okay, travel tech, any easier? Like the industry in terms of shaking things up, in terms of also
There's a lot of
similar,
opportunity.
but
Yeah,
nobody's
there's
really
a lot of opportunity.
picking on it. Any?
Not quite yet. I'm seeing a lot of, if you just like browse a bunch of websites and look at the headlines, I swear they all say all in one or all the leading blah, blah, blah solution. And it's like, oh, okay. And there are a few who are standing out more. But there's some work to be done. So, and some visually. So Sendine just rolled out a rebrand with their design, and they're in on the all-in-one, but they have this really cool like infinity symbol woven throughout things, and it looks high end. There's new imagery that is more emotional and you can connect with. So visually, I think they're doing a really nice job there because, right, you're trying to talk to hospitality people who are all about relationships and connecting. So having super stodgy stock imagery, even if you don't have budget, right? But like, how can you have even higher end stock imagery or more emotionally connecting stock imagery? And then I love the brand Actable just rolled out this campaign over the last few months. They're doing like matchmaking because they're all about connecting you with all of your different systems. And it's super cute and clever. And their colors are pink and purple. So I don't know if they're just kind of trying to lean into a certain audience, but they're doing this matchmaking campaign, which I think it just stands out, right? In your feed when you're going through LinkedIn, like, wait, what is there? There's a love matchmaking thing happening here. What is this? So it's pretty clever.
And then you go to look into it. So does their language match up with this? Like, so their wording and everything, like the visuals, okay, cool. But like a lot of brands do that, whereas like we rebranded, but it's just the visuals. It's just like, this is like the outside.
So Sendine, I think it's still, we are seeing a lot of brands kind of saying the same thing. And I wrote a bunch of this messaging like 5 years ago. So, I mean, I'm like, I don't know if I hope that I was one of the early people on this train and people are replicating it. But it's a lot of like, gain insight and convert, and then nurture. And it's a lot of the same language. And it's shifted from being super feature focused to like all the way on the benefit focus. And so you go to these websites, you're like, I don't even know what you do. Can you please just tell me like what market category you are? Yeah. So I'm leaning in. I'm like, let's talk about market category, everyone.
Oh God. So it's almost like they've forgotten what it is that they're trying to offer. Like they're so busy like trying to sound pretty and like skipping the whole like, what do you do? And oh my, I see that so much. It's like, hey, let's use this like fancy wording or just big wording. And you don't really know what it is. Like value judgment words where you're like, the best in the market or high quality. And it's like, but that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Exactly. And so there's tons of companies that are all saying we're going to improve the guest experience. Well, like, I hope so. But how and why? And why should I choose you? I mean, I don't even know what you do. So just saying you're going to improve the guest experience, like the betting, like new betting could do that too. Right?
So are you a betting company or you a hospitality company? Which is it?
Right? Tech, betting, food. I mean, there's so many ways you can improve the guest experience.
There's so much overlap between them, right? There are, and this is what I've been talking about quite a bit recently with clients. It's like, hey, find that space in between. So like, you're not just sounding like everybody else. So say, for example, take hotels or take a, big travel company like Amadeus. Okay. If you're trying to compete against them, they own like a massive market share. Same as like if we're trying to compete against like a Marriott or Hilton, etc. So how do you come in as, someone completely new and shake that up?
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, and it's funny because now that I'm a consultant, I'm trying to do with my own business. And I think to myself all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, what I'm, ruminating on, I would just look at a product person and just say, well, why don't you just decide X or Y? And here I am like, I can't decide, right? So I'm now starting to get it on the other end. I feel like it's clear when you are on the outside, or at least it is for me. Now that I'm on the inside, it's a little harder. Okay. But yeah, I was like looking at a few different hotel websites, for instance. I'm like, who is doing a good job of like trying to really differentiate? And I came across this one website, The Drifter in New Orleans. And I feel like you would like this, but it's super edgy. And even just right, you get to the homepage and there's some bright colors and it's all about the music and the food that you find there. And even the language is all about like being a drifter and embracing this vibe. And it's so different. It's so different than everything else. And now, is that the hotel I want to stay at? That, especially if I have like a family with me, no, that is not going to be the vibe I'm going for. But like they are honing in. And right, it's like Beatrice would be your person. She is just all about that, right? It made me excited. It made me excited to see someone being bold and picking a direction.
Exactly. And it's like, yes, you're going to send people away. Like, say, for example, you wouldn't want to stay at that hotel. I get that. Like, I'd be also cautious. Like, if they're going complete grifter, or like, I'm like, do you mean like a gypsy style, or like, that like freedom style? And I love like how much they've gone into that. Like, don't just pick something and like just change like the outside, change like the wording, like feel it. And I can imagine, like, maybe when you go to that hotel, the team, they're all dressed in like a certain way, and the way that they talk to you as well.
Right, they probably hire a certain type of more hipstery person who's going to connect with that audience.
Exactly. And a lot of businesses miss that, right? It's like, hey, we've just put this brand in place. We've put like the messaging in place. We've got the marketing team on board. We've got like, them on the campaign that's like targeting around this positioning. Mm-hmm. But then it comes to like the people side, where sales team, are they talking in the same way? Like, say, for example, in a hotel, you're talking on events, maybe like to draw people in, or you're talking, with other agencies, travel agencies, Amadeus, etc. Right. And you're like, okay, you want them to get like that feeling about the hotel.
How do you bring that to every aspect of your company? And so much, it's funny because I've been hearing this a lot recently from different people. This idea of your brand is not just your messaging and your visual identity, right? How we often think about it. It is your values, your mission, your vision, and your people should be recruited with those values in mind. Exactly. And I think we miss that step. We either don't identify the values early on clearly enough, or they kind of get lost along the way.
Yeah, I think they, like, a lot of the time it's probably just put on a piece of paper, or it's put at these days, right, on a Word document or something, right? And it's like, okay, cool. Here's your strategy. Here's like your values. And they're like, cool. But it saves it onto a computer. That's it. Yeah. That's it. And then maybe like, God, at the beginning, when the new employee comes on and they've got like that little like set of slides, or like, worst case, the sheets of paper. It's like, oh, this is the things that you need to read through before you join us.
Well, and I feel like you're lucky if you get an onboarding document these days, right? It's just like, here, we need you to start right now. Here's your first task. Go. I'll show you how to log in.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. So it is challenging. And I know you're also focused in on the product positioning side of things. How, what are the challenges that you find around that to shake things up? Because there is just always so much more, and especially with Chinese market, like they're just always coming out with like things. What's your experience?
Yeah. So I think being mindful of keeping up with the competition is tough. And just always being on top of it. And what I see is being a product marketer, you can be stretched so thin so quickly. And I'm wildly surprised to see that being a product marketer can range from doing pricing and packaging and launching a product, actually being like the person who's orchestrating the entire launch, to all of that industry competitor market research, buyer research, and then positioning, messaging, content creation, campaign creation, thought leadership. Like there's this range from product person to marketer, and product marketing, like I haven't ever seen anyone who can do all of those things well. I feel like you're on like one side or the other. And the more I'm meeting other product marketers, I'm like, I am on the marketing side of product marketing. Like I sit on this side, but there are some people who do sit more on the product side, which is great because I'm like, cool, we can help each other out here when I have pricing questions and are learning about the latest tech. Like that's who I'm going to call. But product marketing is still this fairly new concept. And I didn't realize that because I've somehow had a product marketing title since 2010. And I guess that was like the beginning of product marketing. So I only found out literally in the last few months that this has not been around forever. I think it's just like one of those things that's not well defined. And then you think about it, it gets all wound up in branding. And none of this exists on the B2C side, right? It's all the same thing. It's all branding.
Or it's like all marketing. Like they just put it all together. It's like,
yeah, B2B, like everything else has to make things more complex and has to have fancy names for everything and really long names and frameworks and everything else. And it's just, what do you do? Who do you do it for? And why? And what is special about that? What is someone going to get out of it? What's in it for them? That's it.
Exactly. And I feel like because there are so many names, that's why all this has happened in terms of actually, within every area, like be it product marketing, be it brand strategy, etc. There is like there's a lot of different areas underneath it and a lot of different ways that it can be perceived. Right?
It makes it so confusing.
It's insane. Like, especially for example, from my side, like brand strategy, we've got like branding people. So like they do the graphic side only, or like there's people who do copywriting, but they're like, yeah, we do brand strategy. And it's like, do you? So like I can imagine when you're talking to people in terms of like that product marketing side, you're like, okay, how do I define this and then focus on okay, whoever I'm working with, how does that like shake up for those specific products?
And I see a lot that the brand part is completely missing. So they go right into product marketing, which if you're a single product company is not a bad way to start. But when you have 30 products, you need to have a brand messaging framework and figure out how does it all go together? What do you achieve? And then you have those separate stories that come underneath that umbrella. But exactly. I see a lot of companies they're focused on the separate stories. There is no overarching. And that's why you get all of these. We're all in one, and the generic aspect, because it's really hard to explain how all these products create value together, especially if they're not integrated. And in the area I'm in, there's been so many mergers and acquisitions in the last few years. things aren't integrated. So there is not that connected value yet. I hope there will be. I hope for everybody's benefit, the hoteliers, everyone in travel, and the guests, like, will have some more cohesion, and that data will flow better and things will all work, but it's not there yet in most cases.
What are the first steps that you would do? Say, for example, someone's like, okay, they come to you with like, all these different products. And, they're like, okay, what do I do? Like, I want to get out there. I want to like have this particular product, right? Like to stand out, like as a part, like as a group.
So I always start with research. But then of course you don't always have the time for research. So I like to start with research and also keep things running in parallel at the same time, right? I think that's one of the biggest challenges coming into a role is marketing is expected to help drive revenue. So you need to continue to do that while also recreating. So, right, you're building the airplane as you're flying it, I like to say. But
Always.
Research, right? Understanding who are your happy customers, what's going on with the competition, really getting into what all the products do and understanding why they were created, what's the value, and starting to map out how does that all fit together? Where are there patterns and what do people get excited about?
So like building a story around it, right?
Oh, I'm all about the story. I am on, like I said, the marketer side of product marketing. I am all about the storytelling. And so I feel like I need to look at all the research, analyze all the patterns to create that. It's like a puzzle.
Exactly. And that's like, say for example, you take those mass produced like Chinese products, which like they don't have any like brand, like unbrand or anything, or like almost no brand. Or even something like Shane, right? Like it's just the name, like the comparison between them and like how you can be different from them. It's like just even as simple as like having that story of
right.
How do you want to approach it, right?
And it doesn't have to always be the product itself, right? So you think, Shane, like, what's your service? What's your return policy? What, all of those types of things. I've recently made a very poor decision to order a couple of bathing suits online, not quite understanding the company. And of course they didn't fit. And I tried to return it. You had to email them. And the only way to return it was to ship it back to China. Well, guess what? No one in the US wants to ship anything to China anyway. Like they just said no. So they gave me a credit for like $15. But just like that's such a bad experience, especially for women. Bathing suits, like that is always a 50-50 chance if that's going to fit. It's like jeans.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I would never buy jeans.
Right? And I swear I read the return policy before I ordered, and it basically said like no problems within 30 days. I was like, cool, great, I could do that.
Easy. And then it's not easy at the end of the day.
Easy.
And I think brands out there, like say for example, other clothing brands that do stand out in that way, like they talk about how easy that process is, or like, they're even taking that marketing to the next level where they're out there and seeing like who's like tagging, wearing their clothes and what their experience is like. Who was it? I think the cup brand, not Yeti.
Stanley. Yeti.
Stanley, I think it was like there was like this video about this as you're drinking from good branding.
I was just thirsty. I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you by any chance also hired by? And they saw somebody posted their car, like I think it got into an accident or something like that, and like the thing caught fire. They had their in the what do you call that? The thing in the middle between the
cup
two
holder.
seats, the front cup holder, right? It was the only thing that survived.
No.
And the owner of I think they either like they were having a moment because like that's a dangerous move, but I think they bought him a new car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That is the way to do it. That's really impressive.
I mean, they have the budget for it, but
but like that's smart.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you
that
can
is
take
smart
that to
and kind, and yeah. Oh, I love that.
There we go. I mean, okay, when you were working on like say Ninja Shark or like, you know, one of the product brands that you worked on before, like did you have any interesting like things where you're like we positioned it and it just popped?
I for sure tried. So one of my favorite stories is not something that I did, but something that I was the benefactor of. So this was probably back in 2012. I was on Twitter and I posted, you know, like, 'cause I posted all the time and I tweeted, right? And I tweeted something about how it was daylight savings time. And I was finally, because I am a night person, I am not a morning person at all. And I finally was, you know, awake in the morning, and thanks to daylight savings time. And Nestle Tea Company, or no, it was Lipton Tea Company, gotta have the brand right, responded and said, you could be like this every day if you, you know, drink our tea. Can we send you some? I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. And so I used that because I was a social media manager at the time. And for a while, like a good 5 years, I used that as my example of like, we can be part of a community, right? You can be part of the conversation. You can get people engaged, but you have to have a specific angle. And so what is that angle that you are working on, that you are going to embrace? And so theirs was, right, helping people be morning people. Cool. Like, what a great idea to hone in on daylight savings. Brilliant.
They understood their position. They like understood, okay, so this is how we're going to differentiate. It's not like it's not the product. It's like, this is our mission. And we're going to like make sure that whatever step, be it like in socials, be it like whatever it is, how we talk, that's the message. That is, oh my God. Okay. So there is one question that I ask everybody that comes on board here. And that is, what is the societal norm that you want to shake up with and, you know, push back on, teach others about?
There's probably a lot, but the one that comes to mind in the workplace is following the rules. And so I was also a professor and I had grad students. And so all of the assignments I gave, I kind of just treated them like my interns, right? I gave them their assignments and I said, go ahead, you know, do XYZ thing, put together a deck for this or that. I tried to make it like pretty tangible and applicable. And I cannot tell you the number of complaints I got because I was not clear on how many words or how many slides or exactly what sections. And these were graduate students. They weren't undergrads. They weren't high school students, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to give you the rules. Like, don't just follow the rules. And I think that's been one of my biggest angles. And I kind of had like fully embraced it at this point, but it wasn't intentional in the beginning. It's just like asking why, like, well, why do we do this? And can we try this instead and just test it out? And I'm really big on that in marketing because like you can just easily test things and then change your mind. Nothing's permanent, especially in digital. So I don't get the rule followers. And I think you gotta ask why, you gotta try new things. I always encourage my team, shake it up.
I freaking love that. I love that. And people have like terrible memories. They're going to forget anyway, like if it's bad. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, girl. You can check out the dates to link up with Jacki in the podcast show notes. And thanks for listening to the Art of Branding podcast. Love it and want to support it. A badass way is dropping a 5-star review. And when you're ready to shift gear in your business from just another to the obvious one, visit badassrybybee.com to get started. Whoop, whoop.
Time for bloopers. Yay!
Okay. And are we both wearing green? Is that too much?
Oh, okay. We lined up our outfits without talking about it.
Yeah.
It works. Let me just double. Oops, that was not. Because before it was saying like, okay, headphones. Oh, for some reason it won't. Okay. For some reason it's using my headphone thing, and now it's too late. Here we are. Anyway.
Okay, you sound good.
Thank you.
I am obsessed with your podcast. It's so good.
Yeah?
Yeah, and also, why are you having me on? You have like these super famous people.